Hi, welcome and thank you for listening to the Fearless Adventure Podcast. My name is Veerle and I'm taking you with me on a journey. In this podcast, I will give you a glimpse into my location-independent free life. I will tell you about the challenges of online entrepreneurship as a nomad, about finding the right mindset to grow, and how you can experience real freedom in your own non-nomadic life. My name is Veerle and welcome to Fearless Adventure. Hello, I'm so glad that you're listening to another episode and I cannot wait to dive in. This episode has been in the making for a couple of weeks now. I recorded the Dutch variant recently. Well, I think it's already like 4 weeks ago. I recorded it back when I was on Gran Canaria and it will air on my Dutch podcast today as well. So you can look it up at Reizende Strijdster if you want to listen to the Dutch variant. But yeah, today I want to talk to you about me walking the Camino de Santiago de Gran Canaria. So it's a hike. It's a 3-day hike. It's 70 kilometers, and I wanted to walk it, so I did it. But it has been a bit of a struggle to get there, and I want to share my experience with it and share the doubts that I had before I did it. So I want to take you along on the story of me starting to walk the Camino. I will keep referring to it as the Camino because I'm too lazy to say Camino de Santiago de Gran Canaria all the time. But just so you know that it is the specific Camino on Gran Canaria and not the famous one. And there are different ones on the Canary Islands as well. So this one is just specific for my island. All right, when did I knew that I wanted to walk this route? Well, actually, I'm not really sure when I found out about this route. It's in November 2021. I was living in an apartment in Las Palmas, and they had a couple of Paulo Coelho books, and I decided to read The Pilgrim. And when I was reading that, I just knew that I had to walk the famous Camino de Santiago de Compostela. I knew that I needed to walk that, but I also thought it was a little bit out of my league. And the funny thing is, I think it was that weekend after I read this book that I saw a Camino sign on the island when I was hiking with some friends. So something sparked within me. I was like, is there a Camino here? All right, that's cool. And then 2 weeks later, I was having a lunch with my yoga friends. And one of my friends told me that she actually walked the Camino. So I started to ask her some questions and I wanted to know a little bit more about it. And she told me that I should do it. If I was interested, that I should really do it and I should do it on my own. And my biggest doubt of walking the Camino, either Camino, it doesn't matter which one I'm talking about right now. The doubts that I had was, isn't it going to be too far because I'm untrained? And I was really afraid of camping on my own. The walking bit, the walking on my own, I didn't feel that scared about that. I'm kind of used to it now, and because I've been walking a lot in the forest in the Netherlands, and I've been hiking more and more in places. I remember the first time when I hiked in the forests in a foreign country. It was in Bulgaria. I think it's either May 2017 or October 2017. I think it's October actually. No, it's May 2017 for sure. So I still remember that I was so scared of doing that. I still did it and I loved it, but I was so scared. I was just like, yeah, but I don't know what to do. What if something happens? Who do I call? I'm in a country that doesn't speak English. What? And there were just so many things that I was scared about. So I was a bit scared to go, but I already knew for such a long time that I wanted to do something like it, but I felt unready, unprepared. Ever since I saw the movie Wild with Reese Witherspoon, it is a movie about walking the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail. It goes from Mexico to Canada. Ever since I seen that movie or read the book, I knew I wanted to do something like that. But I was always like, yeah, and then I have to carry all that weight, and then I have to cook dinner on that little stove every day, and that's like, I don't even cook when I have a home, so why would I do it on one gas pit? It didn't make sense. So I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But it keeps coming back to me. So I need to do it. I know it. And I knew it back then when read the book in November, when I had the lunch in December, and it just clicked. When I was making my what do I want to do in 2022 list, that rhymes. When I was making that list, I wrote down that I was going to walk the Camino on the island. I needed to do it. It was my perfect way of seeing the island. So it was on my list and I was going to do it. So I started planning it a little bit. I was like, all right, so what am I going to do on the island? When do I want to walk it with the heat and with the cold, especially if I want to camp? Do I want to camp? And I decided to not go camping and just take it easy for me because I was scared about camping, but also about the distance and if I could do that. So I thought, if I cannot do it, then camping sounds just crazy. So I decided to go with just booking a hostel or Airbnb or whatever. So I booked that in advance and I decided that I was going to walk in April. So I decided that in January that I was going to walk in April. And then I went back to the Netherlands to organize a festival. And after that festival, I got the flu. And I realized that it wasn't that sure anymore if I could walk. I was planning to, when I was in the Netherlands, to walk a 25K to do that a little bit to get the distance in my feet, but I couldn't do it because I was out of breath. It really felt like I had a COVID, but it wasn't. I kept testing negative, so it was probably just a flu combined with bronchitis or just bronchitis. But yeah, I really felt like I couldn't do it. But then I got back to the island in March, end of March. And I was like, yeah, but I still want to do it. I'm just going to try. And otherwise I can take a bus or I'll figure something out. So beginning of April, I decided to, after Easter, that I wanted to hike. I realized I was running out of time and that I needed to do it. And it was the perfect way to say goodbye to the island where I've been for 9 months. So I booked my accommodation. I looked a little bit more into it and I booked 2 nights in advance. So I booked a place in San Bartolome and I booked a place in Tejeda. Tejeda was also the place where I used to volunteer. So I booked 2 nights there because that was going to be my downtime as well. So I just planned it. So there was no way back anymore. So I had to do it. And then 2 days before my trip would start, Kalima came. And if you don't know what Kalima is like a sandstorm that this with Sahara sand that comes to the island, and the whole sky is sepia. There's a lot of sand dust in the air, and it's hard to breathe. And when it's a bad Kalima, then they always tell you to wear a mask outside, and people with asthma shouldn't go outside. I do have asthma, so it's not my best period of time to be outside, but yeah. And during Kalima, it gets really hot as well. So Kalima is something that happens on the island almost every month. So I am kind of used to it now, and I know how to spot that it's coming, stuff like that. But yeah, the day that I left, it was 28 degrees. It was still Kalima. You could still not see that far ahead because of all the sand in the sky. But I was like, I'm just going. I need to do it. I don't care if it's 28 degrees and it feels warmer than that and it feels like I'm walking in the desert. I'm going to do it and I'll figure it out. So I took the bus to Maspalomas because that's where you start. I decided not to walk all the way because the route is split up in 3 different days. And the first day was going to be a 28-kilometer day. And I knew in advance that I didn't want to do that because it was also climbing a bit. So I decided to split it up and I booked accommodation. So I always call this day one, technically day zero, because I didn't leave from Maspalomas. And in the end, I didn't really walk that much because I started walking and I walked from the bus stop. I walked 2.5 kilometers and then I realized that I was in the wrong valley. So I thought if I would keep walking, then I would never come to my Airbnb. So I decided to walk back to Maspalomas and take a cab from there to my Airbnb. And I was a bit bummed about that because I was like, yeah, but that's not walking the Camino. But I also thought that I should make it easy on myself because I had a hard couple of days coming and it was really hot and I didn't think about it that much. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna do this. It's not about the actual hike. It's not about the path that I'm taking. It is about the journey. And if this is part of my journey, it's fine. So I totally embraced it. In total, I only walked 5 kilometers that day. And then I got in a cab. And the funny thing is, I asked the cab driver, I showed him the address, I asked if he could take me there, and he said yes. So we started driving. So we found the address, and then I had to pay him, of course. And it was a 10 euro something that I needed to pay. And I wanted to pay by card because I hardly carry around any cash. I have my phone and I always pay with my phone. But the thing was, the the pin terminal didn't have signal, so I couldn't pay him. So what the cab driver did was he drove all the way into the town to look for signal. And because he did that, I saw a sign that says Tunte, like it was a walking sign with walking routes, and I knew I had to walk towards Tunte the next day. And I remembered the choice that I made to take a cab was, all right, I have to figure out what I'm gonna do tomorrow, how I'm gonna get back to the road, and I'm gonna look at that all tonight when I'm in the Airbnb. But with the taxi driver looking for signal, I already found the route. So it was such an aligned thing to do. We went into town, we didn't get any signal, so he drove all the way back to Maspalomas almost, and then drove me back to the place. So I paid 10 euros, 10 something, and he drove the whole route twice. I felt so bad for the man, and he was like almost crying. Yeah, it was so sad. But for me, it was all aligned because I needed to know the route. I needed to get there, and it was all fine. I felt really bad for the man, but he couldn't make the amount higher as well. I asked him if I could pay him more, but he was like, no, it's not possible. So that was a bit sad. So yeah, he ruined like an hour on me for a drive that was only like 10, 20 minutes. So yeah, it was a bit sad, but for me, I got what I needed in the end, and I could the next morning I could start fresh. And so now we're getting to what I call day one, because this is the day that I walked, like actual walks, the Camino, even though I hadn't been on the route all day, but that's a whole other topic. All right, day one, I started walking, and the first 5 kilometers was just on the road that I drove with my cab driver as well. But yeah, that's totally fine. The road really started with a 12% climb in the beginning already, and I was like, oh, I hope it's not going to be like this all day. But yeah, the road got me to a beautiful dam, and from there on, it really started. The beautiful views were coming, the palm trees. It was still a bit of a climb that day. At least it felt like that. And now when I'm looking at the numbers, it's actually not. But yeah, it was so beautiful, and I stopped like every 5 minutes to take photos. At one point, I was walking on the road, and there was this really big black dog standing there. And I used to be really afraid of dogs because I got bitten when I was 9 by a German Shepherd. And I was a bit, yeah, I was always afraid of dogs. And now I was like, all right, let's see how the dog is responding to me. Normally, when I see dogs when I'm hiking, they're on a chain and they're on a leash, then they cannot do anything. But this dog was roaming around free. But it turned out to be a real sweetheart. The owner was walking there as well, and she had another dog with her. And it was just, yeah, this dog was called Dot. It was just a sweetheart. I didn't really pet him because he wasn't that into me, but he was just looking like, all right, there's someone, that's cool. But the other dog was so beautiful, and the owner told me that I could walk with that dog, and the dog was called Payette. And we walked a little bit, and I thought it was so cool to walk the Camino with a dog for a while, even though I was afraid of dogs. So it felt like a whole circle coming back. Yeah, that first day, it was a beautiful day. It was a lot of beautiful panoramic views. Like every time I was like, oh, I'm here, I'm here. And then 5 seconds later, it was another beautiful view. It was crazy. I really loved this day. And yeah, sometimes I'm walking with music, sometimes I'm walking with a podcast, but usually I'm just walking with myself because I think that's what it is about. And yeah, I was just so happy the whole day. I was smiling, I was singing, I was just doing my thing, stopping for food, stopping for rest, stopping for photos. And one of the things that I really remember the most about this day is that I was so happy when I saw my first Camino sign. I did a little dance because I wasn't walking the Camino at that point because I came from another valley. So I was just following Tunte, like the first stop day, but it wasn't the actual route. But this route was so amazing. And I'm so happy that I took this. And it's just I didn't know what time or how long it will take me to get to San Bartolomé to Tunte. So I couldn't really tell the check-in time to my accommodation. And some of my friends, Alex and Kati, they walked a bit of the Camino as well. And they told me, at least Alex told me, that I needed to let the accommodation know exactly what time I was coming because it took them an hour to get there when they walked it. So I told them that I will be there around 6 or 7 in the beginning, but I also told them, hey, I will update you through the day and I will tell you an hour in advance if that's okay. And they were like really happy that I said that. So when I realized I was coming to the town earlier, I told them that I was there at 4. I thought check-in was 4, but I was at San Bartolome at 2:30, so I had to wait an hour and a half for them to come, and I thought I couldn't change the time again. And I was just sitting in the sun, cuddling with a cat, and I was really tired. And I had to wait until checking in, and then I had to wait until the store opened, and I was just so tired. I almost thought I wasn't going to cook. I almost thought that I wasn't going to the store, but I needed to do it because I knew I needed water, I needed food, I needed to prepare for the next day. I needed my victory drink. That's what I did every day. I had to drink something. But yeah, I just remember being so tired when I was there. And I went to bed really early and I watched Wild because I thought that's the movie that I want to see on my first day. So on the first day, I walked only 15 kilometers and it was an elevation gain of 900 meters and the loss was 250. It was a good start. Then the second day, I think I left around 8:30ish, and I knew I was gonna climb a little bit more. And because I walked higher and I was really gaining a lot, it was also colder. I really remember from the day that it was too cold to stand still and eat in the shade. I wanted to be in the sun, but there was no sun, not that much sun yet, and I just remember how cold it was. And this is actually quite funny. I walked past Cruz Grande, and I remember that when I was driving with my boyfriend on the island, we stopped there and had lunch. But it felt like a weird point. It wasn't that impressive. We didn't like it that much. It was just a place where we could park the car and eat something. And I really remember like I didn't like it, but I also remember that I saw a Camino sign when I was there, so I knew I was going there. So when I was walking, I was coming out of one wood and I had to cross the road. And because I was there before, I knew where to go. Otherwise, I would have missed the Camino. And I think actually this was the point where Alex and Kati missed the road. And Alex told me that it was a long day along the road. And I was like, oh crap, I don't want to do that. I might take a bus, otherwise I'll figure something out. But I knew that I had to cross the road and I walked up to Cruz Grande and it was so crazy. I was I had this view, like a proper 360 view of two valleys. I could see the dam. I could see so many beautiful spots from there. It was so beautiful. So I was so happy that I walked this bit because it felt so unimpressive when I was there before. And from there, it was a lot climbing, like I said, and it was a lot along the edge. And every time I saw it up front, I was like, oh crap, this is going to be scary walking along that edge. But it was all fine. It was easy to do. And then when I got to the top, it was beautiful. Then you're just in the national park. And I really loved that. And it felt so familiar when I was there. So that was really nice. And I remember at some point it was really hot when I was up top, so I was happy to find some stones where I could sit underneath a tree, and it was also where a sign was. And on that sign it said like zero point 0.2 kilometer to viewpoint to Ventana del Nublo. So I decided to go. It was not that far. I didn't care that I had my backpack. It was fine. thought of leaving my backpack, but it was on a road, and I was like, no, maybe I should take my backpack. So I walked that 200 meters. It was not that much anyway, and it was the most beautiful spot that I've ever seen on the island. It's really one of my favorites. It's crazy. And I just remember that I sat there for half an hour and I just loved that moment. It was so beautiful. I took lots of photos and videos. And yeah, I fell in love with the island again, totally again. And I think the biggest lesson is that if you see a sign that it's not too far, just go there. You never know what it is. And I thought I knew that point already. I really thought that it couldn't be that impressive, and it was the best moment of the island. So yeah, it's definitely a big lesson to just go there. I think on my first, well, no, this is the second day. On the second day, I got lost at some point. I was walking down a little bit and I came to this motocross thingy racetrack. And I couldn't see the signs. I only could see the signs from the racetrack. And I decided to go straight when I actually had to turn left, but I didn't know that, of course. And I was walking without a map, without GPS. I was just walking and following the signs because that's what I like. Luckily, I didn't really take a big detour, and it turned out that I knew where the road actually was going. So I followed the signs from other trails, and then I found it on the map that it was there, and then I was back on familiar territory because I have walked parts of the island. And of course, I used to volunteer in the middle of the island, so I know areas around there, and that really helped me because when I got lost, the place that I found, I knew exactly where I was. So I knew how far it was to the hostel where I was going to stay, Finca La Isa, where I used to volunteer. But it was also because I knew that it was easier because of that. But it was so windy and I was so cold at that point. Really, my head almost blew away and I was shivering. And I also knew that I needed food for the next days, and I knew that I needed to go to the store, and there was this crossroad, and it took me like 10 minutes to decide what to do, if I would go down to town or I would just walk to the hostel. In the end, I decided to walk to the hostel because I didn't want to carry around groceries that I didn't really need the next day. I needed it the day after because I had a rest day in between. So I decided to walk to the hostel, and I was so happy when I was there because I was so freaking cold and tired. I just curled up on the couch underneath a blanket next to the fireplace, and I didn't really talk to people. There was one guy that asked me if I was there by car and if he could catch a ride the next morning. I told him, "Oh, I'm actually looking for a ride for tomorrow because I want to go to Cruz de Tejeda to go to the spa there." It wasn't sure back then, but I knew I probably would want to go there. So I told him that I was looking for a ride as well. And the funny thing is, the next day I had my rest day, and he got me a ride there. He didn't take that ride because he took another ride, but he arranged it for me that I would be dropped off there. And that was perfect because I had an appointment at the spa. It is a 4-star hotel, and it has a fancy spa. You can get there for in there for 90 minutes, and they have saunas, and they have a big pool with an infinity pool, and it's the best view of the island. Of course, the day that I was there, it was really cloudy and we couldn't see fuck, but it was just beautiful. I was so happy that I was there. And it felt a bit too fancy for me coming there in my walking clothes, but hey, it's roll with it. I'm paying for it, so I don't really care how I look. It's totally fine, and I just loved going there. And I have been talking about going there ever since I realized that it was there. I remember texting one guy back in 2020 like, hey, let's go there. We didn't go there in the end, but I still remember that I wanted to go to that hotel slash spa. But yeah, after the spa, I took the bus back to town, to Tejeda. I wanted to go to the grocery store. I knew that I was coming there during siesta, but that was fine. It was calculated. But what I didn't realize was that the store hours changed again. And that meant that the store opened on the moment that the bus would go back. And I didn't want to walk up yeah, it's a 30-minute down, but it's an hour up to the hostel again. I've walked that a lot, and I didn't want to do that. So I was sitting there in front of store thinking what I should do because I needed food. So then I just needed to walk or hitchhike or take a cab or whatever. And then someone from the hostel came. She saw me sitting at the fire the night before because I was so tired. We didn't really talk, but she recognized me and she got talking to me at the store, and she offered to bring me my food so I could take the bus back up. So it was really a sign from the universe to help me out and get back and relax, take the bus. So it was really good. And that night at dinner, the hostel serves dinner, so that was really nice. And I was really talking with everyone. It was a nice evening. And someone offered me their poncho. And I remember that I was so cold the day before, so I took it. I was like, "Are you sure? All right, I'll take it." And I also got a fleece at the hostel, so I had a little bit more clothes for day 3. And I am so glad that I had that because it was crazy cold when I left. I left at 7 a.m. because I knew it was going to be a long day. It was going to be like a 25-kilometer. It was going down all day, so I knew needed to take my time, otherwise it would ruin my knee. So yeah, it was cold. It was dark. It was raining a lot. I left at 7 a.m. and at 9:30 was the first time that I stopped to have some food because it was raining all the time. So I couldn't sit down. Everything was wet. So I was just walking and eating. And it was so cold to hold the box that I had my food in and eat. I wanted to have my hands in my pockets because it was too cold. And I think everyone who's walking Camino needs a day like this. Like a rainy, crappy day so you can work through some shit. I was listening to some music and all of a sudden I was working through past relationships and negative beliefs and everything. And I was crying my eyes out. I was screaming. I was singing, whatever I did it. It was a horrible, gloomy, rainy, cold day. And I needed it and I loved it. And it was still beautiful. Even though it sounds horrible, it was beautiful. Like I said, I was walking down all day and I really felt my knees. So I took a lot of breaks. At one point, one of my phone died and the other one didn't have that much percentage anymore. And I was like, all right, we'll see how everything goes. And I remember, I think I still had like 8 kilometers to go. There were lots of signs on this part because this is the part that you're getting close to Galdar. So it's the end point, and there are a lot of beautiful signs, and I didn't see that many signs on the road anyway, like the proper Camino signs. Usually there's yellow arrows everywhere, but not the proper Camino signs. But here I saw a lot of those, but apparently I missed one. Around 8 kilometers, 6 kilometers left, I missed one. And that turned out was the most important one for me because after that I walked 8 kilometers on a road and I never made it to Galdar. I never made it. I kept walking along the road and I booked my night in Agaete anyway. I was supposed to take a bus from Galdar to Agaete and I almost walked to Agaete. So yeah, I didn't have the ending like walking up in Galdar to see the church like I thought I would. And that's fine. I thought, all right, I'm going back to Tasarte after this. I'll take a bus to Tasarte and walk from there to the guest house where I was staying. But then the next day, Rosella, the owner of the place, said that she was going to pick me up because she was doing grocery shopping in La Aldea anyway. So again, didn't have the ending that I thought. That's totally fine. And it was really nice because this way I could do grocery shopping as well and everything. It worked out. And I got to the guest house way earlier than I thought. So I met someone there that had a car that wanted to do hiking. So we went on a hike. And the next day I met someone else and he wanted to go on a road trip. And we took a hike as well. And we saw all these beautiful spots. So I really was into the hiking a lot after that. And I think it was because I didn't really have the proper clothing. And the funny thing is, after I did the Camino, I realized that I need to be outdoor more. I keep realizing that, and I think I've said it on a podcast before. But after that, I think 2 weeks later, Alex that I mentioned that walked part of the Camino already, we decided to go on another multiple day hike, but this time we would camp. And In total, we walked 63 kilometers in 3 days, but 30 of those kilometers was on our last day because we missed a sign or got lost or whatever, and it was a hard a hard day. We almost ran out of water as well, but it was fun. It was nice. The camping, I didn't really like it that much. We the first night, oh, I remember that we were on a path, and you're not allowed to camp there, so we were next to this wall, so you couldn't really see the tent from the path, so it was fine. But it was also next to a tree, and because of that tree we couldn't fully pop up our tent, so it was like a beautiful construction that Alex made. It was more like a teepee, but halfway during the night, because we were stretching out in the tent, it all collapsed on top of us. So the next morning I woke up with the inner tent on top of me, and I was just looking outside and I was like, I don't see the outer tent anymore. It all shifted, and it was such a funny morning. We didn't have that much sleep, I guess. I think I was snoring a lot that night as well, and it wasn't the best. And the second night we were again pretty high up in the cold in a cloud, and we were both so cold that I think I said the next morning, yeah, let's just walk to Laude and take a bus back. And then we decided, all right, let's just go to Laude and go back to Tassarte, and we got picked up, and I was really lucky, especially after the whole 30 kilometers. And if we needed to hitchhike after that to go back somewhere to get food and water, it would have been a horrible day. But in the end, because Alex and I went, I had my camping experience anyway, and I'm still not sure if I would do it on my own. But yeah, it's still, it was a good thing, and I learned a lot from these things. And I know now, after walking these two multiple day hikes, that I can definitely walk the proper Camino, and I will do that. I'm not sure when. I will just book accommodation along the route, and I will do it, and I think I will do it next year. But I cannot wait to do it. So yeah, I think that's kind of my story. Let me tell you how much I walked every day, because I think I only said it on the first day. So my day one, I walked 15K with elevation gain 900 and elevation loss of 250. On day two, I walked 19.5 kilometers with an elevation gain of 1,000 and an elevation loss of 600. And on the third day, I walked 25K with an elevation loss of 1,500 and elevation gain of 500. So yeah, I think the second day was the most climbing, and the third day was the most going down. And I really felt that in my knees. But you get used to it as well. And I think for now, I'm gonna do a couple of longer hikes in the Netherlands. I'm thinking of doing a 25K when I get back. There's one that's pretty close to my house, and it's a circular route, so I'm gonna do that. I might want to walk the Pieterpad. That's in the Netherlands. It's from the north to the south of the Netherlands. It's, yeah, I have no clue how much kilometer it is. I haven't really looked into it. My sister has walked it last year with her husband, and I have to ask them everything about that. And then I want to walk the Fisherman Trail in Portugal as well. So I have some hikes that are on my list that I'm going to do. I just have to figure out when I'm going to do that. And usually that starts with just book something, so you're going to do it. So that's what I'm going to do. I hope you like this little insight of my hiking experience. I can really recommend it to try it, maybe train a little bit more. I think I was already pretty fit because I used to walk a lot during all the lockdowns, and I'm so used to walking 5, 10, 12, 15K now that going to 25 wasn't that much of a stretch. But I can imagine if you're not used to it that it might be. So train properly, train with walking with a backpack because it can be heavy, and just start doing it. If you really want to do it, start doing it. Start planning, start practicing, and start. All right, that was it. I'm gonna stop the recording, and I hope you had a nice listen to this, and I will hope to talk to you soon. Ciao. Thank you for getting along on my journey and listening to another episode of Fearless Adventure. Would you like more information on the topic of this episode? Then take a look at the show notes on fearlessbusiness.nl. Give your opinion or want to screenshot this episode on Instagram, you can find me and tag me on Instagram at Fearless. That is Veerlez. Fearless. Can't wait to hear from you and see you next time.